Welcome to episode 4 of Fighting for Light. I am Danielle Hendricks, and I am coming to you with a very casual conversation today, but one that I think is very important. I want to talk about desensitization, or being desensitized to things or situations that maybe we need to feel emotions for, but situations where we just encounter them and we kind of move along. And most often we're encountering this in the world of social media, where we're just scrolling along and we are passing things that we should feel very maybe angry about, or we should feel a lot of excitement about. And neither of those emotions are being felt because we've desensitized ourselves to feeling any of those emotions. And I talked about this a little bit in my last episode about the idea of anxiety. If you want to work on overcoming anxiety, there is a benefit of becoming desensitized by sitting in the anxiety. So if you feel anxious about maybe test taking, it might be hard to do, but actually taking more tests will help you to become less anxious about taking tests. Or making phone calls. I know for salespeople, a lot of time when they start in those jobs, they feel very anxious about making the phone calls initially because it's a scary thing sometimes. However, the more and more and more you do it, the less anxious you become. And so that's the idea of becoming desensitized about something. But I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of, should we be desensitized to things? And does it play a role in the way that we interact with the world around us? And I'm starting to feel like in our society, in our culture, that we have a disservice to ourselves because we've become so desensitized to the things that we need to be passionate about. I'm always someone who I want to have something that I'm passionate about, and I will always probably work in a job where I have purpose and am in a mission, most likely in the pro-life world. But I think back to a situation when I was in college. I went to St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, and I was sitting out on the front steps of my dorm, and I was completely alone. And I was thinking about just the struggles of different people in the world. I had a friend who was thinking about going into the military, and some different scenarios of people who had gone on missions, and they had encountered people in deep crisis who were injured or hurting or encountering situations that were far away from me. The thought that I had while I was sitting there on the front steps was, if that person who was injured, say, I don't know, a woman was laying on the ground and she was hurt and she was bleeding, but she was on the other side of the world, would I want to help her? Would I feel a need to help her? What about if she was in the next state and I knew that I could do something, but she was still far from me? She was hurt, she was bleeding, she needed immediate care. Would I help her? And in my thought process, I kept moving her closer and closer in my mind. What if she was on the other side of that building, or the other side of the tree that was near me? What if she was laying on the ground at my feet? Would I get up and help her? And I think so often this happens now with our social media situation, where we see pain and struggle. For instance, I just saw a clip of Christians who are being persecuted in Syria. They're actually being rounded up and killed. And it moved me because I don't feel like I have the ability in this society that I'm in to do anything about that except tell you about it. And I don't want you to be desensitized to that. And I don't want myself to be desensitized to that, because it is a horrible thing that is happening to people and humans in the world. If I want to take it one step further in the pro-life world, what if that person that was injured or hurting was a baby? And what if they were under a blanket in front of me and they were crying and they were dying? Would I do something to help them? What if they were inside my womb or inside your womb? And I think because it has been relegated to someone else's problem in our minds, we don't want to care about it, or we don't want to have the effect of that hard situation impact our lives and make us have to make a change. as I said before, in terms of anxiety, sometimes it's good for those situations to desensitize us. So I think about people who are actively involved in caring for really, really hard situations, or for the military who are maybe in the war and are fighting battles that are hard and scary. Not that we don't want them to care about what is happening immediately around them, but they actually, with a little bit of becoming desensitized, are able to act in those situations with much more confidence and care. On an emotional level, we don't want to get to a point where we don't care. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for anyone. And it's not, especially not healthy for a society that doesn't care about people in situations that need to be cared about. And obviously, I'm talking about some things that are really hard and scary and dark, but it can be the same thing on the other side. So I think that if we spend a lot of time trying to become desensitized to the hard things where we don't want to feel those things, or we choose not to care, then when we hit the other side where things are supposed to be exciting or fun or bring us life, we also don't feel those things because we've now created in us a habit to not feel deep emotions. And that's not good, because we want to live lives that are fulfilling and happy and joyful. But in doing so, we need to feel all of the emotions. For myself, my father had passed away when I was 9. And in high school, I spent a lot of time not wanting to feel sad and not wanting to feel the grief and emotions that went along with that. But what I recognized is that I didn't actually feel happy because I was choosing not to feel. And as I'm encountering it now, or as I'm given the tools to recognize what that time in my life was like, I see that I was choosing not to feel anything, because as soon as I let myself feel the good, I had to feel the bad. Taking steps to let ourselves feel emotions can be really, really scary and really, really hard, which is why I talked about resiliency as my first episode. When we want to feel emotions, it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel excited about things. And when we do, it's important that we sit with them, that we come to a self-awareness of what these situations mean for us. So when I encountered in the news that Syria is persecuting Christians and many people are being killed, my first reaction was to just let it go, or to move on to some other thing that made me happy or that I wanted to read. But instead, I actually took the opportunity to imagine what that would be like for me, and to recognize that I have a voice and I'm able to speak about these situations so that others would know that that it's happening. I know if you stop for a minute and think about it, you will also feel this way. And you will also have situations in your life that maybe you're encountering where you're saying, I should feel differently about this. And if you have those situations, I want you to take the time to think through it and to let yourself feel the emotion. Let's work on being in a time of reality and not a time of just blind following of what others are telling us we're supposed to do or feel. It used to be that television shows were made to mirror actual life. And now we all know this, but actual life tends to mirror what we see on television or we follow on social media. That doesn't allow us to choose to find fulfillment, because even when we find something that makes us happy or come alive, we always have this feeling like it should be different because everyone is telling us it should be. So I just bring you this topic of desensitization, which is a hard word to say sometimes, but with the knowledge that we don't have to be, that we can take the blinders off, that we can start to look around us, look at the world as we're encountering it, and feel the emotions that we should feel. And we can heal where we need to find healing. A couple different things as a journal prompt. If you want to take this to a time of prayer or meditation or just some deep thought, I want to ask you to not necessarily a question, but to think of a time that impacted you with heavy emotions. And I'm not talking about trauma. If it's something traumatic, don't deep dive into that right now, but just a situation in the world that you feel like you should care about, and ask yourself the question, why do I not care? Or why do I feel like I'm trying to distract myself away from this? The other thing is, I want to just keep reminding you that I do have a 14-day free trial membership to the Women's School Masterclasses, and you can find that link in my show notes. And if you have any need or want to reach out to me, just do so. You can find me on social media, or you can email me on my website at claraluxcoaching.com. And I would love to hear from you. But thank you again for tuning in. This is Fighting for Light, and I am Danielle Hendricks. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe to this podcast. If you want to leave a comment, that would be great. It helps me out a ton and gets it heard and seen by all the new people. Thank you so much.